Budgetary issues could lead to job cuts and restructuring at Pima Community College, while leaders devise ways to address the college's so-called fiscal reality. This week, faculty and staff will learn more about what options the college is considering. Ahead of that closed meeting, we asked Chancellor Lambert to explain how the college got into the situation. Fiscally, there will be some tough decisions that are coming. Tell me what exactly that entails.
So I have to put it in a larger context, right? So what drives our budget, a lion's share of that is our enrollment. So if you go back to about 2011, 2012, when Pima was at the height of its enrollment, and from an FTE standpoint, we were up close to about 23,000 FTEs. If you bring it home to present day, without adding any multipliers into the number, we're sitting more closer to about 14,000. So you're talking about a 9,000 differential and FTEs.
These are full-time students?
Full-time equivalent students. That's what the FTE really represents. What that means is, in the state of Arizona, there's a constitutional law that refers to expenditure limit. So in our case, our expenditure limit is heavily influenced by the number of students we have. That's why we're now having to make an adjustment on our budget, and we forecasted it out to be about $15 million that we have to adjust on the operational side.
How do you do that?
Well, we make up the $15 million, not from the standpoint of, I'm not going to be able to grow enrollment back quick enough to get back above the expenditure limit that we have to be at. But what I'm going to be able to do is adjust on the expense side. And because that means less students in a classroom, you have to start saying, well, how many classrooms do I need to have running? And that means all of a sudden how many faculty you need to deliver that education and training for students, right? How many students support people who help handle all of the front-end services, the advising services, those things. How many do you really need to service a declining student body? So you start there and then you look at and say, okay, well, if I have less staff on the academic student services side, well, how many HR people do I need? How many business officer people do I need?
How is the Pima community embracing the fact that change is on the horizon?
Well, it's scary times for a lot of folks. For a lot of folks, this is the first time that they've actually gone through this kind of experience. When the state cut Pima and the other community colleges a few years back, Pima was able to address this on the margins. So it didn't affect that classroom. Didn't necessarily affect the services directly being delivered to students in the same way that we're now talking, because the more you cut around the edges, the less you have to adjust as your financial challenges deepen. People are rightfully worried, some scared, and I expect that to be the case. But I want to be the kind of employer where I'm being as transparent as I can be. So I don't want you to come to work one day and find that your key doesn't work in the door, and that's when you learn that you've been laid off. So what's the trade-off for that? This is what we're experiencing.
Board welcomes public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the college. Comments will be limited to this evening.
Also this week, the Arizona Supreme Court ruled Daca recipients are not eligible for in-state tuition, a decision that has implications for Daca recipients attending colleges across Arizona. Nearly 170 students at Pima have Daca status. Some spoke out at this week's board meeting.
But now, because I would be considered out of state, I cannot afford to graduate in fall.
I mean, I said last night at the board meeting that my heart is breaking for our Daca students. And it's not just our Daca students, it's anybody who's not here, what our country likes to refer to as lawfully or legally, right? And I don't think that's the way we should be looking at other human beings.
Recently, your program, your basketball program, achieved enormous success. Is that program under the microscope now with its future?
Right now, what's been on the table in terms of athletics is really looking at the future of football and what's going to happen with football. But what it has revealed is something that's much more comprehensive in the sense of, are we effectively supporting our athletic programs as a whole? And so as I peel back the layers of the onion, I start to realize that we're underinvesting in athletics. So if we want to maintain 16 programs that can compete at the level of our basketball program, our men's basketball, we're going to need to make some additional investments. It's happening at a time when I'm being asked to reduce our budget to be in alignment with expenditure limits. So I cannot make investments into our athletic program out of our general fund budget. Yeah. And so that limits what I can do. So then I have to start saying, okay, what might I have to adjust within the athletic programs. Right now, things like basketball are not on the table. Football is on the table in part because of that, but more importantly because of the decisions that were made up north of us at Maricopa to eliminate 4 of their football programs.
Lambert says the current challenges present opportunity, and he does not want prospective students to feel discouraged. He says the college is working on ways to make it easier to transfer to universities, and it's revamping programs in the tech and automotive fields.
Even in the midst of what might seem tragic, we're actually doing some wonderful things, and so we need to always look at the glass is half full, not the glass is half empty.